Hello everyone, welcome back to another In the Studio. As the video title suggests, we're going to focus on vocal processing today. Before we dive into the video though, I just wanted to briefly touch on the fact that if you're recording your own vocal or if you're recording a singer, obviously you want to make sure you get the best recording possible. You want to get the sound right from the source. It's going to make your job so much easier down the line. That means, using proper recording technique, maybe using the right microphone if you have multiple microphones to choose from, and recording in a properly treated room. That's beyond the scope of this video though. I wanted to focus on the actual processing techniques you can use to get a professional vocal sound. So the vocal that we're going to use for this example is a vocal I recorded with a friend some years ago. I chose this one because it's completely raw and unprocessed, so it will work great for the video. It's not the best recording in the world, if I'm honest. There's some background noise in there, but it still sounds good because he's an amazing singer, and it will work great for the example here today. So let's have a listen to the vocal.
Take my hand, walk with me, feel the moment.
So that's what we're working with. So let's jump in and start treating this vocal, see what we can get out of it. First thing I'm going to do is use an EQ. I'm just going to keep it simple, and we'll just go with the stock EQ2 here. So there's definitely some low end that I just simply don't need in here.
Take my hand.
So let's just start with a simple low cut or high pass filter.
Take my hand, walk with me, feel the moment. Take my hand.
Somewhere about there I think is fine. I find it easier to go extreme, where it's obviously too much, where the vocal is just too thin and brittle, and then back it off until it feels right, it sounds right. You don't want to take too much out, especially on a nice male vocal like this. You want to keep the the weight and the body in there, but just get rid of the stuff that you simply don't need. So I found right around 115 hertz is a good spot. We can always adjust that if we need to. The next thing is maybe adding or doing a cut in the low mid. I think there's some kind of muddiness here around 300, 400 hertz. So let's just explore that a little bit.
Take my hand, walk with me, feel the moment. Take my hand, walk with me, feel the moment. Take my hand, walk with me, feel the moment. Take my hand, walk with me, feel the moment. Take my hand, walk with me, feel the moment. Take my hand, walk with me, feel the moment. Take my hand, walk with me, feel the moment. Take my hand, walk with me.
Okay, so I found just a little boost in the mid-range, sounded very nice, and then just a little bit of a top end boost as well, just to kind of bring out some of that air and sizzle in the top end. And then, of course, scooping out a little bit of that muddiness around 400 hertz. So without the EQ,
take my hand,
with
walk with me, feel the moment.
yeah, I mean, it's a subtle change, but I'm not looking for major moves here. I'm just looking to, squeeze a little bit more out of the vocal, maybe take some of the stuff out that I don't need. So it sounds a little less muddy because we took away some of that low end and the low mids, and a little lighter in the mids and the top end. And I think that's going to work. The next thing I want to do here is control the dynamics. You can see in the waveform that we have, some pretty aggressive peaks here. I just want to level this out. So I'm going to go for one of my favorite tools for this job, the LA2A compressor. So let's just dial this in.
Take my hand, walk with me, feel the moment. Take my hand.
Okay, I think that will work.
Take my hand.
About 5 dB of gain reduction there.
Take my hand.
We need to match the level though, so let's just bring this back up.
Take my hand. Take my hand. Take my hand.
I think that will do. Okay, so that's just, controlling the dynamics a little bit. Now I'm going to add another compressor here, and this one's going to do two things for me. I want it to also catch some of the peaks, so it's going to kind of massage some of the peaks down. But what I'm looking for with this compressor is just a little bit of subtle distortion. This is an FET compressor, the 1176, and it does add some subtle harmonic distortion, which is very pleasing. It'll help warm up the vocal a little bit and also help, just catch the peaks as well. I'm not looking for much compression here at all. So I'm going to start with a preset here, which is sometimes nice to do, and that's, and then you can always adjust from there. But this gentle vocal comp I think will be nice. And I'm just looking to, grab the peaks and then again add a little bit of subtle distortion. So just dial this in.
Take my hand, walk with me, feel the moment. Take my hand, walk with me.
Let's just make sure we're level matched here.
Take my hand. Take my hand.
Yeah, I think that's fine. And you can see we're only getting about a dB of gain reduction here. Just kind of grabbing those peaks. We'll just do a little A-B comparison.
Take my hand. Walk with me. Feel the moment. Take my hand.
Again, this is not a huge change. It's quite subtle, but it does just kind of tighten up the mid-range in a really nice way. And again, adding a little touch of distortion there, which is nice. Adding multiple compressors in series like this is a nice technique to think about, especially for vocals. Instead of, pushing one compressor super hard, maybe use a couple compressors with different settings to kind of spread the workload out. That way, each compressor isn't having to work as hard, and a lot of times you can get better results that way. So we've got those two compressors in series kind of working together and each doing their own job. The next thing I want to do is add a sweetening EQ, something that has just nice broad strokes, just to bring out some of the goodness of this vocal, maybe take away something that we don't need. So I'm going to use the mag EQ for this. It's one of my favorite vocals for excuse me, my favorite EQs for vocals. So this guy's super simple to use, and we just have the fixed EQ settings and then this nice air band, and we can either cut or boost. Really simple to use. So I'm just going to play the vocal and play around with this, see what we can come up with.
Take my hand, walk with me, feel the moment. Take my hand, walk with me, feel the moment. Take my hand, walk with me, feel the moment. Take my hand, walk with me, feel the moment. Take my hand, walk with me, feel the moment.
Yeah, that's nice. I mean, I love this air band here. It just lifts the top end up in a really nice way. I love it. And then just a little boost in the very low end. That actually kind of thought it helped bring out like the resonance in his voice. And then just dipping out a little bit at 650 and a little boost at 2.5 kilohertz.
Take my hand, take my hand.
Yeah.
Walk with me.
Just sweetens the vocal up a little bit. You know, it's obviously important to know how to apply techniques, how to use an EQ, how to use a compressor, so on and so forth. But what's more important, I think, is why. Why are you using an EQ? What do you want to get out of it? Why are you adding this compressor? What do you want it to do? If you can't answer the why, you're better off just not using any processing, you know. So it's just something to think about. It's something that I've definitely, you know, tried to focus on in my workflow. Okay, so there's one more thing that I wanted to add on the inserts here. If you listen to the first phrase when he says take, I think the sibilance is pretty harsh there.
Take my hand.
Yeah.
Walk with me. Feel the moment. Take my...
And that's the only spot I think that really jumps out to me anyways. That's just a little bit overbearing as far as the kind of the sibilance is concerned. So let's tackle that. Now I'm going to use a dynamic EQ for this. Obviously you can use a de-esser. All a de-esser is just a narrow band compressor that's focused in on the sibilance area. But I can use the dynamic EQ to achieve, you know, a similar result. So I noticed when I was EQing the vocal up here that the sibilance sat around 7.5K. So 7,500 kilohertz is kind of our problem area. And we're going to set an EQ band there and just going to tighten up this Q because I don't want to affect, you know, the frequencies that aren't problematic. So we're going to tighten this up. That should be about good. So we're kind of, yeah, in that range there. That will work. And then we're going to engage the compressor component of this EQ, which is going to allow us to duck that based on the signal that it's given. So I'm going to go for a fast attack here. We'll leave the ratio at 2:1, and then I'm just going to pull down this threshold, and I'm looking for maybe around 6 dB of gain reduction, maybe 7.
Take my hand.
Let's go a little more.
Walk with me. Take my hand. Take my hand.
I think that's pretty good.
Take my hand, walk with me, feel the moment. Take my hand.
So you could see that it's really only reacting heavily on that take. That's the only real problem area. So instead of adding a static EQ that's just, notched out 6 dB at that spot, I want, to use a de-esser or a dynamic EQ where it's going to react to the signal and only duck that out when it needs to be ducked out. So that's good. Let's just do a little A/B here. So without the de-esser.
Take my hand, take my hand, take my hand.
Yeah, it's definitely helping just kind of calm that down and keep it under control. So I also have a peak controller here, and I'll show you what this is being used for in just a moment. So if you've watched any of my other videos on this channel, you know I really like to use parallel processing, and that also goes for vocals. So I have some parallel tracks I've set up, and I'm going to walk you through these one by one. So the first one we have is this parallel compression track. So I am just going to solo this track for a second.
Take my hand.
Show you what we have going on here. So I have another instance of the 1176, and I'm really compressing hard with this.
Take my hand.
Fast attack, medium to fast release here, really high ratio, and just pretty much slamming it. I also chose a different instance of the 1176 just to get a slightly different distortion flavor. Even though they're the same compressor, the different models do have a slightly different vibe. So just to get a different vibe, I've chosen a different model here. And then I followed this with this plugin is not working. Let's try loading it again. That's unfortunate. But what this plugin was doing was just adding some extra saturation. Unfortunately, I need to figure out why it's not loading up, but that's all that was doing, was just adding a little extra, analog texture there. So, and then I'm just mixing this in. So
take my hand.
That's what we're mixing in with the original vocal.
Take my hand. Walk with me.
Okay, so the next auxiliary track I have set up, I'm not using this one here. I have some reverb. This vocal is very dry. It desperately needs some reverb. So I'm using the Lexicon 224 here, and I just started with a preset and then adjusted it from there. So it's just a nice hall preset. I actually increased the reverb time of the mid frequencies and then the treble decay because the gaps in between the phrases are actually quite long. So just to help fill the gaps a little bit, I just increased the reverb time and pretty much left everything else the same.
Take my hand. Walk with me. Feel the moment.
There we go. And then I followed the reverb with an EQ, just rolling off some of the low end, which I didn't want too much of that low end reverb building up. So just to, clean that up. And then I found it was pretty muddy in this 500 hertz area. If we could I'll just solo that so you can listen to it. So you're just nasty. So just dip some of that right out. And then I also dipped out a little bit at around 7K. That's kind of that problematic sibilance area. So I didn't want too much of that building up in the reverb, so I just added a little cut there as well. And then this is a important little plugin here. And what this is doing is ducking the reverb against the vocal itself. So I've talked about this little trick in previous videos, but that's what this peak controller is doing. So what I did is just added this little volume plugin here, and I linked it to the peak controller. Again, super easy to do. You just right click, link to controller, selected the peak controller, which is on our vocal. Select that. You want a inverted setting because we want to duck it. And I switched this from 1 to 0.8 only because I want this starting position here to be the same, and this is at 80%, so that's why I put 0.8. This little side note there. Hit accept, and then we're good to go. Now this is going to react to the vocal with the settings we have on our peak controller.
Take my hand.
If you want it to be more aggressive, turn the volume up.
Take my hand.
But what that's going to do is duck the reverb when the vocal is playing. That way it just, pushes it in the background and lets the vocal come through and shine through. And then in the gaps between the phrases, the vocal then just kind of swells in and helps fill the space. And especially in the context of a mix, when you have lots of other elements going, that's going to really help your vocal come through. It's going to help you maintain clarity with the vocal, and keep things tidy and clean. So that is what is happening here. It's a simple little trick, but it's important. And I just kind of like to do it this way in FL Studio. It's quick, it's easy, it's effective. But you can use just sidechain your vocal to an auxiliary track and duck it with a compressor as well. So if you're not using FL. The next auxiliary track I have is a delay. And I'm just using the delay 3. Nothing special is happening here. Really simple settings. It's just an 1/8 dotted. I actually did reduce the sample rate slightly, which is just kind of adding a little, texture to the delay, kind of grunging it up just a teeny little bit. Let's hear the delay.
Take my hand, walk with me.
There we go. And I'm just EQing the delay just to keep it tidy, just rolling off some of the top end and the low end with the band pass filter. And then I like to usually add a little bit of reverb to my delay tracks after the delay, which is just going to help, I think, it usually just helps settle it into the mix, and it kind of pushes it a little bit more in the background. In this case, I'm just going quite subtle with just like a small ambient reverb, so just a short decay time of around a second, and maybe around 30% or so on the mix. And then I'm doing the same ducking effect to keep that delay in check against the vocal.
Take my hand, walk with me, feel the moment.
Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do here is add some width. So if you are recording your own vocal, or if you're recording a singer, you definitely want to consider recording doubles, so you can get that doubling effect and pan them out and do all that fun stuff. I think I did do a video on making kind of like fake doubles. If you don't have multiple takes, you can kind of recreate a double track. I'll put that video up there. But in this case, let's say you don't have you don't have doubles and you don't want to try to fake it, and you just want to add a little extra width. There's plenty of things you can do to get that type of effect, and I'm just going to show you one method here. So what I've done is just set up two auxiliary tracks. One is panned hard left, one is panned hard right. On the left, I just have a simple pitch plugin, and I'm pitching it down 10 cents. And on the right, you guessed it, it's pitched up 10 cents. And that's just going to create some width here, because we have a 20-cent difference from the left and the right side. So I'm just going to turn this up a little bit.
Take my hand.
So that's what we're mixing in.
Walk with me.
If I just turn those pitch plugins off,
Take my hand.
you know, it sounds right down the middle.
Walk with me.
Because there's no difference on the left and the right side.
Take my hand. Walk with me. Feel the moment.
Okay, so we're just mixing that in to taste, just like the other auxiliary tracks here. And there we go. Then we have a little extra width. So let's turn all of the parallel or auxiliary tracks on and listen to the vocal.
Take my hand. Walk with me. Feel the moment. Take my hand.
Okay, so let's just turn these off, and we'll do a little A/B with the insert effects. So without the insert effects, completely dry where we started.
Take my hand. Walk with me. Feel the moment.
With the insert effects.
Take my hand. Walk with me. Feel the moment.
With the auxiliary tracks.
Take my hand. Walk with me. Feel the moment. Take my hand. Walk with me. Feel the moment.
Okay, there you go. That's an example of how I would process a vocal to get it sounding more professional and a little bit more polished. So I hope you found that useful. Hopefully you can take some information, some tidbits from this video and use it in your own productions. Let me know if you do and it works out for you. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.